Hey, Graham.
Well, hello.
Looks like we got a bunch of comments in here. We were chatting behind the scenes, and we were almost late. Not quite late, but almost late.
Yeah, I looked up at the clock and thought, we're going to have to start here.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll read through a few comments, or I'll tell you what, Graham. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Um,
So, hey, everybody. I am Graham Judd. I am the owner of Judd's Quail. Um, Tonight, if it's okay, Aaron, I kind of want to give like my story. Um,
Absolutely.
and I'll start there. I looked through some of the comments already. Tater Farm said they're looking forward to seeing me tonight. I am looking forward to seeing you as well. Um, Vay, Vay is here, and she says she's interested in hearing me. Says S.O. Swanson thought they were going to be late. They're here. Um, Cluckety Homestead is joining in. We got people from Ohio, people from Mississippi. Um, Goodness gracious. There are lots of comments.
Yeah, yeah. Looked like they were busy.
So I wanted to kind of share my story um, about how I got started in quail and um, what's transpired since. Um, in October of 2023, my wife Misty was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, and uh, she started the chemotherapy. She was initially told she was stage 2 breast cancer. She started the chemotherapy, and she got real sick. And I'm a paramedic. That's what I do. I've done it for 18 years, so I kind of thrive on overtime. But as soon as she started getting sick, not only was I not able to work the extra shifts, I wasn't even able to work all of my own shifts. Um, so fast forward to February of 2024, my wife said, "Hey, Ben is getting out of quail. Would you like to get involved in the quail business?" And we have been homesteaders more or less for the past 10 or 12 years. We've had small gardens, we've done some canning, we've had chickens, we've had goats. Um, so I said, okay, and I don't really know what we do with quail, but I've seen them at some auctions, so I guess people buy them. So I called my buddy up, talked to him a little bit, said, hey, what are you doing? And basically he said, look, he goes, adult quail sell for about $8 a piece. He said, and you can hatch out. He goes, you can get one of these little foam incubators and you can hatch out 100 quail a month. And I said, so when they become adults, I can sell them for $8 a piece and make an extra $800 a month. He said, yep. So, me being in the kind of financial position I was in, I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump in, and I bought his pen, and then I went and found a bunch of birds and bought those. And I thought, I'm going to make $800 a month. Needless to say, it doesn't quite happen that easy.
Oh,
Um, but I started doing a ton of research. I started watching everything that I could find on YouTube. I'm very, very type A. I like to know everything. If somebody calls me with a quail question, I want to know the answer. So I started researching, researching, researching. In the process, I found you. And in the very beginning, I was writing you and asking questions like, "What's a quail?" You know, and so I graduated from what's a quail to how do I do this and what about this and what about this. A lot of times I would watch a video, but it wasn't real clear. So I'd come to you and I'd say, "Hey, I'm seeing this. What is this?" One of the first things that I found that I didn't know anything about was NPIP. I knew nothing about NPIP, but I found out that if I wanted to sell my eggs across state lines, I needed to have that certification. And S.O. Swanson, I am in Bekoshi, Oklahoma. So I'm right on the Arkansas Oklahoma line. So if I wanted to sell My quail in Arkansas, I needed to have this NPIP certification. Um, about the same time, early spring last year, we started a poultry swap in our community. Let me tell you, my town has 300 people. Okay, 400 people. We're not big. Like, we don't have a gas station. We do have a Dollar General. We
Of
call it
course.
we call it the Bakoshi Walmart, um, and that's really it. We've got a diner. So I started a poultry swap. There's a town just north of us. They were doing a poultry swap, and they do it in a Tractor Supply parking lot. And I thought, when it gets hot outside, sitting on the asphalt in Oklahoma heat in 105-degree weather is not going to be great. Well, we have a park right down here with shade trees and all of this. And so I decided I was going to set up a poultry swap basically so that I would have somewhere to sell my quail. We've only lived here 2 years. I'm new to the area. I don't have any local connections. But we ran this poultry swap in this town of 300 people. We started getting more vendors and more vendors and more vendors. And towards the end of last summer, we're getting 45 to 50 vendors every single month, or excuse me, every single swap. And we had foot traffic for our poultry swap that it's exceeded the entire population of the town.
Yeah, I got to watch that thing grow from when you started it to where it is now. I mean, that thing grew from, from nothing.
But there were 4 of us the first day, and it was freezing cold and rainy. And I said I was going to stay there till noon. So I sat there in my jacket, and my daughter was with me, and we stayed until noon. And probably we didn't even have a single visitor for the last hour that we were there, but we stayed till noon. And we did. We grew this thing, and the group on Facebook now has, I think, 2,400 members or something. So we started selling the quail there, and we'd bring some of our chickens, and my daughter and my wife would bake some bread and can some jellies and all this sort of stuff. And I started bringing home money. I would bring home $150 from 4 hours worth of work on Saturday. And towards the end of the swap season, August, September, I told Misty, I said, look, I've got proof of concept here. We can grow this business. And so I'm going to focus on growing out this business. And I had discovered in my area, my warm market, people are interested in meat and eggs. They're not, I'm not going to say they're not interested in colors, because they are. Colors are great. Colors sell well. But people were more interested in the meat and eggs. I kind of looked into the genetics. I met someone, Susanna, who lives in this area. Susanna's tied in with Rebecca and with Leah, and Rebecca and Leah are fantastic with genetics. Susanna knows a lot more about genetics than I do. And I decided I'm not going to focus on that. While I think the colors are pretty, I want to be able to look at a bird and go, it's got spots on its chest, it's a female. It doesn't have spots on its chest, it's a male. So I decided I was going to go meat and eggs. I'm going to do jumbo birds, and that's what I'm going to focus on. And October 28th of 2024, September, we were told your wife's breast cancer is gone. There's no trace of disease. Things are looking up. Treatments are going to be done in February. October 28th, my wife had our 14-year-old daughter drive her to the hospital, because my wife said, I feel like I'm underwater. I feel like a bobblehead. Took her into the hospital. Hospital did a CAT scan, and her breast cancer has metastasized. She had a 28 millimeter mass in her cerebellum. They cut out the mass in her cerebellum, and they basically said to me, your wife has about a year to live. 80% of the people who get the kind of cancer that Misty gets die within the first 12 months of their diagnosis. And I told Misty, I said, I have to put this into full gear. We've got to move now. And there's a lot of warnings against building a business too fast. Um, it's very dangerous to build a business too fast, just like, if you build too slow, that can be problematic as well. Um, but fortunately, I do have some education in business, and I've built a business before. I used to run a pressure washing and paver company that did really, really well. So I've got some experience in that area, and I just started growing it. And I didn't have a choice but to grow it. I went 6 weeks without a paycheck. And, so we're talking, you know, close to $10,000 in income that I just didn't have, you know. I'm driving an hour and a half to treatment, an hour and a half from treatment. We were going back and forth to the hospital all the time. That was kind of the reason behind the GoFundMe and the fundraisers that we've done, because I had zero income, none. And quite frankly, I didn't care because I'm trying to take care of my wife. So I'm taking care of my wife. She was in the intensive care unit for 8 days. She was in the hospital for 11. She came home and she's really, really confused. Almost like, now my wife's 49. But it was almost like taking care of a dementia patient. The anesthesia, the surgery, the shock from the. So I really started ramping up, ramping up, ramping up. I've ordered almost 200 eggs off of you on 2 different occasions already. I've picked up some other eggs from some other places. My incubator was so full, Susanna had to hatch out a batch of eggs for me. At one point in time, I was hatching out my own. Buddy down the street built a couple of pens for me. Through the donations and things like that, I was able to buy a pen, and I started growing, and I bought a website, and I got an LLC and the whole 9 yards. And I don't want to say that I'm running full speed right now, because I'm not. We've had some cold weather come in. My birds have gotten a little bit stingy with their laying, and short days, the birds have been a little bit stingy with their laying, but I am able to make sales right now. I'm able to sell the eggs. I am absolutely amazed at the market that's out here for quail eggs. But I saw a guy online, and a lot of you guys will know who I'm talking about, but I saw a guy online selling 800,000 quail eggs a year. And I thought, I can do that. And so here I am today, barn full of quail, part of the quail community with you and Thieving Otter and Southern Biophiliac and Susanna and, just Mason, so many other people that have just been really, really supportive of my journey, that have asked me, that have helped me when I've had questions, that have encouraged me, that have helped to promote my business. And as it stands right now, I will have enough birds and enough infrastructure to retire from my paramedic job in April.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And like, so I always recommend don't start too big too fast. And majority of the time, that's because people, in general, people, I'll include myself in that, they lack the drive of it. Of course, they're passionate about raising quail, and they're passionate that they want to start a business, but they lack the drive, the follow through. But kind of like, your situation, your back's almost against the wall, and it's either sink or swim. And I mean, you are doing great. And you see, I get asked all the time, like, why are you friends with all of these big quail farms? Aren't you a quail farm? I'm like, yeah, I sell eggs too. There's enough egg sales out there that why do I have to not be your friend because you sell the same thing I sell? I want you to sell every egg. I don't care. I mean,
I'm a big quail farm, but I have to get new blood into my flock.
yeah.
And the only way I can do that is if I go to Texas and order, if I go to other breeders in Oklahoma, if I go to Bryant's Roost and Thieving Otter and Southern Biophiliac in Florida and to Louisiana, that's how I get new blood in my lines, is by going to these other farmers and buying from them. And so, yeah, I can hatch my own, sure. And I can do that for a long time. I can do it for a real long time. But then there's this other thing that I've encountered. I'm selling all of my eggs. I think right now I have 40 eggs, maybe, to my name. And I just had to order 200 from you, because not only are all 40 of those already spoken for, I've got 5 orders that have been placed online that I haven't been able to ship because of weather, and because the girls have gotten stingy in the cold weather with their laying. And so I've got 5 orders to fill that have been placed online. I've got a guy here in my warm market who's ordering about 120 eggs a week from me right now. I don't have a choice. I have to buy eggs from other farmers. And it helps to have these relationships. And that's, I think that so many people, they get very territorial, and they get real concerned about making every single sale. It's not about making every single sale. It's about networking with other people in the community. Because if I don't have eggs to sell, I'm going to recommend Guidraw's Family Farm if I don't have that product. And
Absolutely.
and if someone wants colors, or if somebody wants genetics or something like that, it's going to be Rebecca, it's going to be Leah, it's going to be Susanna, because that's not what I'm focused on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, networking is very important, and like, I'm passionate about quail. I'm probably more passionate about helping other people, and I'm very thankful for the friendships I've built over the years of doing this. Like, I made some really awesome friends, and I mean, like, special shout out to Rebecca at Thieving Out a Farm, um, and Jessica Gardner with the freeze dried snacks, because they started the, which Rebecca does, the quail poop bingo, and I mean, they started that, and like, the group we had, it was just amazing to work with all of those people, and like, donations just poured in, and I mean, we were just we were all just chatting about, we sad it's over, but I think we're just gonna move our interests forward, and find some other good we could do. And the quail community as a whole, most of us are just willing to help people, and just willing to just come together, and I mean, I enjoy being part of that.
Yeah, and there's when you start looking at how much it costs to get a quail eggs aren't that expensive. So
No.
if you donate something like, I do 18, 36, and 54 count. If I donate a 54 count of hatching eggs, that's $5.40 for me in cost. Um, but that could be the start of a farm for somebody else. And
Yes,
that's a big deal.
absolutely. I mean, it may be small to like you or me, but that's huge to someone else.
It absolutely is. And one of my goals, I have been poor most of my life. I chose a career field. For those of you who don't know, the starting salary of an EMT when I started was $8 an hour. Okay. The minimum wage in Florida, when I was in Florida, went to 805, $8.05 an hour. And EMTs had to get a pay raise just so that they were making minimum wage. So I picked a career field that didn't pay very well. Um, I've worked as many as 6 jobs at one time. Right now, I'm working 3 jobs. I teach for a college in Arizona. I'm farming 5 days a week, and I'm on the ambulance 2 days a week. So I've been poor most of my life, and I want to run this farm, my farm, in such a way that anybody can get excuse me, anybody can get started. One of the problems for me getting involved in homesteading, I thought, man, I'm going to live off grid, man. I'm going to get off the grid and I'm going to disconnect and all. I suddenly realized that's not practical because, okay, I want to live off grid and I need a wood stove. The wood stove's $400, but then I got to cut wood and that's $150. But I have back pain, so I got to get medicine for that too, and I realized how expensive it is once you're kind of stuck in the Monday through Friday, the 8 to 5, the kids go to school, ball games on Tuesday and Thursday, church on Sunday, back to work on Monday routine. It's really hard to step back out of that because you don't have the tools you need to succeed as a homesteader. You want to garden, but you need a greenhouse. You want to garden, but you need potting soil. You want to garden, but you need seeds. You need shovels. You need to be able, and you haven't had a good time until you've tried to hoe a 10 by 10 area by hand, right? Grassy area by hand.
Right.
So now that I've found some success in life and I've been able to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do in terms of homesteading and things like that, I want to make it to where anybody can do that. I want quail to be affordable for them, profitable for me, and we can get a lot of people into the homesteading arena with just a handful of birds. Cages, you can find wooden or built cages, or you can go on Marketplace and find an old rabbit hutch for $25 to get started. And you can get hatching eggs for $40-50 online. That's 10 chicks at Tractor Supply and half of them are going to die. And when people realize, hey, I've got eggs and I've got meat and I can get an $80 incubator and I can do this every single month and I can generate meat for my family and I can generate eggs for my family and I can sell the extra to my friends and family. And, it really makes what we're doing worth it. And since I had to struggle for so long, I don't want other people to have to struggle the way that I did, because I learned everything the hard way. I bumped my head on every rung of the ladder. And I've lost a lot of hair because of it, but I am doing you too, huh?
Oh yeah.
So I am doing everything that I can to grow a successful and profitable business that will allow me to stay home, take care of my sick wife, take care of my 3 daughters. I've got 14-year-old twins and an 11-year-old, and I need to be able to do with them the things that they need me for. All 3 of my girls rodeo. They're very, very active with their horses. I'm trying to keep life as normal as humanly possible for my girls, despite the situation that we're currently going through. So I'm trying to keep them in rodeo. I'm trying to keep them in school. I'm trying to keep them active. I'm trying to keep them happy. I'm trying to keep them in church, and moving full time into quail is what's going to allow that. And working 24-hour shifts on the ambulance just doesn't. Working 12-hour shifts on the ambulance wouldn't do that.
Yeah. I mean, everyone always says time is money, but time is also time.
Yes, I agree.
And you don't, and when you're facing, listen, I'm praying for a miracle for my wife. I pray for a miracle every single day, but the data aren't showing a lot of miracles being handed out for this.
Yeah.
But people beat the odds every day. So while I'm expecting and praying for the best, I am preparing for the worst. And, this quail business is what's going to take care of my family.
Yeah. And, you have a good plan and you do have a great network behind you. So, I mean, you got a ton of us out here hoping for, you to succeed, and we want to see you do big things and kind of like you're growing, and I'm kind of like I'm gonna stay where I'm at. I don't think I'm gonna. I say that, but then you never know. You never know with me. But like I think I hit my ceiling where I'm at, and almost at the point of where I would need to hire someone to work full time. And I personally feel like my farm name is a family farm, and if I hire someone outside the family, I think like I would have to remove that because I don't think I can keep family farm on there with employees personally. Because I mean, regardless of how many egg orders I get, everyone's still special for me. Every single order that's packaged, it's not just, oh, I made $20 off of this package. It's special because it's going to someone that wants the package. They want those eggs. So it still holds its magic for me, and I don't think I ever want to grow past the magic stage because I do love it.
I've sat down and I've done the math, and I know exactly how many birds I have to generate the type of income that I need to support my family. I don't want to be bigger than that. You know, like I mentioned earlier, there's a farm selling 800,000 quail eggs a year. I do not want to sell 800,000 quail eggs per year. Right now, I don't have to provide health insurance for anybody. Right now, I don't have to withhold payroll taxes from anybody. Right now, I don't have to have, workers' compensation insurance or any. I don't want to do that, and I don't have to. Once My issue right now is infrastructure. I've got to get the infrastructure built out enough to where I can walk in the barn and go poop tray, poop tray, poop tray, feeder, 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 water, water, water. And once I have that done, I'll be able to handle, a couple thousand birds if I'm able to work it full time. Um, right now, my kids are carrying the weight when I'm at work, and they're doing a great job. Um, and they are being compensated for their time. I'm paying them for the work that they do, but I need to be there to, you know, anybody who owns quail, it doesn't take long to realize those birds will do absolutely anything in their power to kill themselves. You know, so I need to be home to keep an eye on the birds and make sure that the feeders are full and make sure that the waters are full. And um, right now there's 2 days during the week that I can't collect and ship eggs, and I need those 2 days. I need to be able to collect and ship eggs, but I also need to be able to drop everything and take my wife to the hospital if she needs to go to the hospital. I need to be able to drop everything and walk inside my back door and cook her lunch or fix her dinner or whatever she may need. I need to be able to drop everything. And with my current, career, I can't do that. But I know exactly where I need to be. I know exactly how long it's going to take me to get there. I know uh, exactly how much revenue that's going to generate. And I have plans for what do I do if, with the extra eggs and things of that nature. I've already found several different ways that if I'm not selling hatching eggs online, I've got a huge market for pickled eggs here, you know. So I can sit here and pickle eggs all day, you know, with my wife right here in the other room. Uh, I can sit here and process birds all day, and I've got a huge market here for processed birds. I ran out of roosters around Thanksgiving. I had nothing. I was going around buying roosters from people just so that I could fill orders for other people. You know,
Yeah.
so anybody who's interested in doing this full time, the market is there. You just got to find it.
Yep. And you have to be willing to put in the work. Like, sales are not just gonna come to you. They're just not gonna fall in your lap. You have to go above and beyond, and you can't just get 500 quail and expect sales to just come to you. It it takes some time, and it takes a lot more effort and time. It's a tough one.
There's a there's a video floating around Facebook that says, as you're building your business, you want to get a wait list.
Yeah.
And once you have like 2 or 3 weeks of wait list, then you want to add more birds to your flock. And then you get 2 or 3 weeks of wait list, then add more birds to your flock. And I think that's wise, because if you're sitting on 500 birds, but you haven't built your market, you're going to. It's very easy to get frustrated building a business. You have this great product, you have this great idea, you have this whatever, and you go and set up at the farmer's market or the swap meet or wherever, and nobody buys your stuff. And you go home and you beat yourself up and you think, man, I just put all this money and all this effort into canning this or making this or baking that or packaging this. And people like you said earlier, they fail to persevere. And when my situation is totally different, I didn't have a good idea. Like this was, I ended up with quail. This was not my idea to begin with. My wife suggested it, but then I got my back pushed up against the wall and I had no choice but to make this succeed. So I ingested everything that I could. I mean, how many times, Aaron, did you and I talk until, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, just back and forth? I mean, September, October, before I ever even had a website, I'm asking you about foam shippers. I had no idea where to buy a foam shipper from when I started planning this. I didn't have a clue. I didn't know what quantities to sell. I had no idea what pirate ship was. I didn't know. So I watched everything I could. I asked all the questions I could. I attended these live streams and I took notes. And my very first order, I didn't even get paid for. I did a contest because I wanted to see what shipping eggs was like. So I ordered eggs to see what it looked like when it arrived. And then I packaged some eggs and shipped them out for free because I wanted to see what did it look like when it got to me. Do I like the way this looks? Can I duplicate this? And what kind of a hatch rate are my eggs going to have when they get to this new location?
Yeah.
The mommy of 182,107. I don't know if that's how that's supposed to read. Wants to know if I sell and ship pickled eggs. I don't. Pickled eggs are a local market thing only. To sell pickled eggs commercially, they have to be produced in a commercial kitchen. I don't have a commercial kitchen. The other thing is there's no FDA recommendation on shelf-stable eggs. So unless they're made in a commercial kitchen, I can't really ship them. Even though I'm perfectly comfortable, water bathing my eggs and throwing them up on the shelf, for 6 weeks before I eat them, because there's no FDA recommendation behind it, I'm not comfortable doing that for other people.
Yeah, same thing for me. Yeah. So for you, you shipped out your first eggs. How did that make you feel, anxiety wise? Did you track it every day?
No, I didn't. I kind of figured either they're going to get there or they're not. I did check at about day 5 because, I want to ship eggs the day that they're laid. So I collect every night. And then the next morning they're packaged and they're shipped out usually within 12 or 14 hours of them being laid. So on about day 5, I took a look. And they got there and they let them sit and they put them in the next day. And I think she ended up with like an 83% hatch rate.
I don't remember exactly, but I remember it was high.
she did better with my eggs than I do with my eggs. So, Grafted Branch asked what my website is. It is juddsquail.com, JUDDS.quail.com. So she did great. That made me feel really good. It certainly built my confidence in what I'm doing. Um, it let me know that the advice that I got was good advice. It let me know that the shipping phones that I purchased were the right phones. It let me know that the shipping method that I used was the right method. So I'm not going to branch out and really do much more than what I already did. Um, it worked. I'm going to leave it alone. And I think that's good advice for a lot of people. Um, when you find something that works, run with it. Whatever that thing is. Um, you don't have to raise quail the way that I do. You don't have to raise quail the way that Aaron does. You don't have to raise quail the way that anyone else does. Do it your way as long as it works. If you find that you're being ineffective, if you find that you're being inefficient, if you find that your costs are too high, that's when you retool. But for me, with my shipping, what I learned, that's how I'm doing it from here on out.
Yeah. And you have to, our time's limited. So we have to be super efficient and, continuously finding newer ways to be more efficient. So like last year, I would take my eggs, I'd bring them in, and would after we eat dinner, would package egg orders. We clear the kitchen table, pack orders, and to ship out the next day. And now I pack orders in the barn. I'm much more efficient. I also had quail in like four different places on the property, so you were going around collecting eggs. It wasn't efficient. So now I have everything in one area. I grab my foam shippers, I get my order, I load it, and I package that one, and I just continue along. And I probably cut 2 to 3 hours out of loading egg orders a day. So that's 2 or 3 more hours that I could spend with Christina. I could spend with Lane. 2 or 3 more hours I have to answer questions late at night. Because Graham, don't feel bad. You're not the only one who asks questions, and I'm always here to help. It's fun. I mean, look at the
Well,
friendship we
and
made.
I learned to reciprocate that because I appreciated all of the help you gave me. And now, people reach out to me all the time with questions. And I totally reciprocate because that's what, quite frankly, between you and a handful of others locally that I knew and talked to, y'all are the ones who really got me up and running with this. Susanna, um, I haven't seen her comment in here, but Susanna she's a subscriber to Thieving Otter Farms, and she's tied in with some of these different groups, the Thieving Otter Farms, Surprise Secret, Super,
Oh
whatever.
yeah,
She's a member of the American Caternix Breeders Association. Like, you guys were friends on Facebook before she and I were friends on Facebook, and we only live 30 minutes apart. Uh, so I
yeah,
pick her brain. I'm sending her pictures of quail all the time. I'm like, what is this called? Because if it's a genetics thing, I don't know.
yeah. She's I don't know if she's here or not tonight, but she's she's super sweet. She's also a nerd like me, and she likes Pokemon things. So like we both like quail and we both like Pokemon. So like that's it. That's it. Best friends.
She became a dealer of mine early on. We were doing quail deals in the Walmart parking lot. Uh, we'd meet up either before her shift or after her shift or whatever. She was one of the ones that was selling me roosters when around Thanksgiving, when people were like, "Hey, can you process these birds? Can you process these birds? Can you process these birds?" And you know, it has been an absolutely wonderful experience for me. But but I don't sleep. You know, I'm up till about midnight every night. My wife lays her head in my lap so I can scratch her back and play with her hair, and she'll fall asleep about 10, and then I'm back on my phone, and it's always something quail related. I'm commenting on posts. If you guys are trying to grow your business, one of the easiest things you can do to do it is comment on posts.
Yep. Be active. Be
Be
present.
active, because it puts your name in front of people. That's it. That's how you grow your page. Comment. Don't be adversarial. Never, ever, ever be adversarial. As soon as people get arguing, you get out the door. Let them fight it out. You get on there and you post comments and you support people and you tell them how good they're doing. And you know, there's you can log on to Facebook right now and there's 900 people holding up quail going, male or female. So throw in your 2 cents. Let them
Yep.
know what you think. It gets your farm out there, and it's a great way to grow your business. Um, you can network so easily now, um, through all forms of social media. My one more word of warning on that is find the social media outlet that works for you and use that. Stay away from the 19 social medias, because I use Facebook. I do. We have a family YouTube channel. If anyone wants to see our family YouTube channel, it is Cowgirls, Jesus, and Rodeo. Um, Rather than going and creating a brand new YouTube channel, I just created a homesteading playlist. It's got
Yep.
all of my quail videos and stuff like that on there. YouTube is very difficult to grow. It takes a lot of time. It's a lot of hard work. I have not figured it out, um, but I use Facebook. If you use Instagram, great. Twitter, great. Facebook, great. Whatever social media you have, but focus on that one social media outlook. There are thousands and thousands and thousands, if not millions of people on every single social media. There's no shortage of people that you can read out to.
Yeah. For me, growing a big YouTube following has never been a goal of mine. And even doing live streams has never been a goal of mine. I was like, let's post a couple videos and just see if we could help people out, put some good informational stuff out there. And I had a guy at QuailCon this past September that he asked me when I was going to start doing YouTube live streams. And I was probably like 300 subscribers. And I jokingly told him, when I get to 500, I'll start doing YouTube live streams weekly. And I walked away from it and thinking, yeah, that'll never happen. So, a few weeks later, I get a message. I'm like, and he's like, he's keeping up with how many subscribers I have more than I am. And then I got to like about 485, and he was like, he messaged me one night, and he was like, it's coming soon. And I look down, I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to sit down, and because if anybody really knows me, like I'm a great keyboard warrior. I'll I'll sit behind a keyboard and I'll give you every bit of information you need. I'll help you out. I'll chat back and forth with you all night. I'm not really a people person. I'm not really, very outgoing. I'm super shy most of the time. But with quail, like I could just talk about quail. But so I started doing it. I think Thanksgiving weekend was my first live stream, and I really enjoyed it. And actually, it's growing more. And I told Christina before we got on here, I was like, man, if we could hit 600 before the end of January and get like 50 a month, now I'm like, now I'm looking at like channel numbers, not for monetization or anything, but just like, man, I could meet more people. This is super cool.
Well, and it's a lot of fun. My problem is I'll probably never schedule a live stream, um, because most of what I do is fly by the seat of my pants. You know, if I
Yeah.
schedule if I scheduled a live stream, for next Sunday, I promise you I would miss my own live stream. That's just that's just the way it works for me. I could schedule it for a Friday or a Saturday. I would forget my own live stream. I actually have to tell my wife to put it on the calendar so she'll remind me to do anything. Um, so I probably won't ever do live streams. I like doing the videos um, because I don't ever plan videos. I think on my homesteading channel, there's like 38 videos, and those are all just ideas that I had at that moment. I don't have a tripod. If my camera is ever steady, it's sitting on the wall up against something. But usually most of mine are like this, and I give the absolute worst camera angles on everything that I do because it's whatever happens to pop into my mind at that point in time. Tater Farm asked that I must do an amazing job on processing. I don't know if it's amazing or not. I do take a lot of care. I don't like giving anything with feathers or anything like that. Um, but I skin and spatchcock everything. I don't have a plucker. I do process chickens for people and I process rabbits for people. And I charge $10 an animal. Um, so if you want two roosters processed, I charge you $20. If you want two rabbits processed, I charge $20. I've gotten pretty quick at that. Um, but I don't have a plucker. Everything I do is by hand. Um, I looked at pluckers online. I saw the price tags and I quickly closed the computer and uh, decided that I could do it myself.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the same mindset on that, and we've discussed that stuff in the past. A lot of the things that are available to purchase is not necessarily worth the money. I mean, if you look at our, our grandparents, great grandparents, they didn't have an electric chicken plucker, and like I know where in my area and my family generations ago, they didn't buy meat in the store. They ate chicken. They went out there and butchered a chicken and they cooked the chicken. You know,
Right.
so I mean,
And that's kind of the way it is for me, especially with chickens and rabbits. I have chickens. I will always have chickens. I like chickens. Um, but that's not my focus. Initially on this homestead, can y'all hear the music playing in the background?
I can't hear it.
Okay, good, because my daughter is taking a shower and she's got the music blasting full blast. Um, but chickens are not my focus. They're not my focus. I like chicken eggs, um, so I'm not going to spend the time building the infrastructure. I'm not going to spend the money buying the plucker. If somebody wants me to do that for them, I'll do it. Um, the $10 just basically compensates me for my time. Um, but my entire focus is quail, and originally on this homestead, my focus was going to be goats. I love goats. I grew up farming citrus and goats in Florida. I think goats are about the funniest creatures there are, but I've even sold all of my goats. I have totally narrowed my focus. I only have two pens with chickens in them. The rest are free range. I feed them if I think about it. Otherwise, good luck to you. You know, um, and they're all doing fine. But I have completely narrowed my focus onto quail. Um, I love these birds. I
Yeah,
just
and
do.
that's how I am. We had several chicken breeds at the start of last year, and we started this year with white American breasts and silkies, and that's it. If it didn't really serve a purpose or didn't, you know, bring us a ton of joy, we got rid of it and kind of back to our homesteading roots. And we kind of, you know, over time, we added this and we added that, and like this would be super cool, and let's add these, and and then we kind of had to hit a reset because we had a bunch of stuff around here that didn't bring us joy, didn't bring us food, didn't bring us any income, but it costed us a bunch of money. So it wasn't worth keeping it around. And sometimes I don't know why Christina keeps me around, because sometimes I don't think I bring her joy or food or money, you know. So, but she keeps me around. I mean,
There's a lot of things that seem like a really good idea at the time. Um, my wife earlier this year was like, "We need to get emus." And as far as I'm concerned, if we were going to eat the emus, that would be okay. Um, but I finally I talked her out of it, um, because I knew where I wanted my focus to be. And I'll hatch out the quail and I'll take her one or two and let her hold them. And she thinks the quail chicks are just the most adorable things in the world. Um, I did a video on my Facebook channel. I posted it to YouTube, uh, on a quail I named 2 Day. He was 2 days late. Um, Everybody else had hatched. I just didn't turn my incubator off, and I hear noise, and I'm like, huh, I should probably go get that one out of there. So she got to sit there and hold him as I was shutting the incubator down today, and um, she's fallen in love with these birds herself. And I had a point that I wanted to make. Oh, yes. Uh, for people who are wanting to turn their homestead into a business, um, some things catch you by surprise. Last year, I started a garden, and my only goal with the garden was to produce enough food for my family. Uh, I planted squash, and I had my kitchen table is 6 foot long by 4 foot wide, and my entire kitchen table was covered in squash. Uh, and I had no idea what to do with it. I was giving it away, and like I would give away four, and eight more would grow in the garden. It was the wildest thing I'd ever seen. And we started looking up recipes. What can we do? I thought maybe we could can squash, because you can buy canned squash in the grocery store. But apparently, when you go to pressure can it or whatever the case is, it gets real mushy. And so I found a recipe for squash relish. We sat here and hot packed probably 20 quarts of squash relish this year, and I sold every single one of them. I'd never even heard of squash relish. Uh, but I'll tell you what, it's fantastic. It goes on everything, and you may catch yourself by surprise if you're going to grow a garden and you end up with this massive crop of something. Um, Look up recipes, find a way to put it all together and see what happens. Some of this stuff really has caught me by surprise. My success last year really caught me by surprise, and it's been an absolutely wonderful surprise for me.
yeah, we grow squash here, and Christina shreds them and makes squash patties and fries them. They're absolutely wonderful.
Fried squash is definitely one of my favorites. So, when you're if you're in a lull, or uh, you're not making your sales in one way, shape, or form or another, you know, look outside of the box. Think outside of the box. My wife makes sweet pepper jelly. It's one of her things. So if we're not, selling our chicken eggs, or selling our quail eggs, or selling our pickled eggs, or whatever, we start canning jelly. And I'll take the jelly to our swaps and sell that, because anybody who does farmers markets, poultry swaps, they're weird. You know, they're really weird, because one day you'll take your quail and you will sell every single quail before the swap even starts. The next week, you may not sell a single quail. There
Yeah.
were swaps this year where people were giving their roosters away, but I was selling them for $20 a rooster. So people were giving me roosters because they couldn't sell it at one swap, and I'd hang on to it for a week and sell it for $20. It didn't cost me anything. I just throw it out in the yard, take it to the swap the next week. So the the business aspect of this, it's going to ebb, it's going to flow, and you've got to have backup plans and ideas that, okay, if business is slow in this area, how am I going to bridge that gap? You know, wintertime is one of those times, right? The
Yeah.
swaps stop in my area. It gets too cold, um, but you've got to figure out how you're going to bridge that gap because just because your birds don't aren't laying doesn't mean the bill collectors are going to stop sending their bills.
Yeah. And then my biggest bill collector is the feed store, and I stopped shipping for the last 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks of December, and I just started shipping again. So 3 weeks without shipping, that means 3 weeks without income. But there's 3 weeks of feeding all these quail.
Absolutely.
So you have to plan for that. And I mean, it's not a bad thing if you plan for it. And then, of course, it fell at the worst possible time, stocking up on spring shipping supplies. I'm going to go ahead and I swore several times on, especially on live streams, I would
You're
never
going to do
ship
it.
live
You're going
birds.
to do it.
I'm shipping live
You're
birds.
going to do it.
I said I would not. I've said it a million times. I've told you. I've told everybody, and everybody that's seen it already was like, "I thought you said never." I'm like, "Never say never."
Well, and I've had a lot of people asking me. Here's another word of warning, and I know there's a lot of farmers in here, so this is probably not new to a lot of these people. Don't let people push you into a direction that you don't want to go. I've had a lot of people saying, "Hey, do you ship live birds? Hey, do you ship live birds? Hey, do you ship live birds?" I don't, and this year, 150%, I am not going to because just trying to just trying to get the shipping eggs figured out has been very, very time consuming. Trying to find the tape and where do you get your boxes and where do you get your phones, and I like the little stickers that say do not X-ray live embryos or whatever it says, and hatching eggs, be careful and fragile. And while I'm just getting this all figured out, the last thing I need to do is try and figure out this other thing, how to ship live birds. I've watched videos. I know now where I could source the boxes from, but I'm not going to do it this year because for me, that would divert my focus from what I've decided is going to be my primary income, and that is the eggs.
Yeah, and it's an added expense. It's an added headache. Um, my big thing that made me turn around, because I don't care about all the adults. Sorry, everybody in here. I don't necessarily care about you saying, "Oh, I want you to ship me live birds. I don't want to incubate them. Buy an incubator and order eggs." But I have people, and I have one lady reached out to me, and her kids watch our videos. I'm not sure in their exact ages, but they don't have incubation capabilities and really want quail from me. So it was like, well, would you ship us some? And kind of hit me. So I'm gonna try it, and they're gonna get eggs. They're gonna get live birds. And I have a certain amount allocated for spring shipping. I'm not gonna say that amount because if they don't sell, I'm keeping them. Like,
Right.
no hard feelings. But I have the inventory set on the website. So
Well, and
um
and this is where that networking comes in because I I know the amount of time and energy and effort that I've put into figuring out shipping quail eggs, and I am by no means an expert at it. Right, I've just started. I've shipped a handful of orders. I've done okay. I've done well, um, but I want to learn that system so incredibly well. It's like they say, you don't practice till you get it right. You practice till you can't get it wrong.
Yep.
I don't have the years of experience with shipping quail eggs that you have. But this is where the networking comes in, because if someone says, I absolutely can't buy hatching eggs, I need live birds, I know exactly where you can get live birds, you know.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know that it's, if my eggs are selling well enough, if my eggs are supporting my family the way that I need them to support my family, I don't know that I would ever ship live birds. But on the other hand, if I get a system down and I've got spare time and now I can learn this process for shipping live birds, okay, maybe I'll do it. But I'm still learning a whole lot of things. I'm learning my website. You know, apparently I do web design now because I couldn't find anybody to build my website. I had to do it myself. It was offline and backstage and behind the scenes. I think I ended up, for the software and the website and the credit card processing and all that, I think it cost me about $300. And then it sat in the background for a month before I ever even put it live, because I needed to dedicate almost an entire month to learning the website and the functionality of it and how to make it work. And I'd looked at other people's websites. I'd looked at different farms and seen how they had theirs laid out. And I took what I liked from this website and did that, and what I liked from this website and did that. And if I didn't like this, I didn't do that. And so my personality type, when I go all in, I'm all in, and I just don't have the time to do live birds. So for getting started, I think you're doing it right. Put it on the website, see how it does. If it does great, great. I wouldn't buy 100 live bird boxes yet. You know,
Oh no.
uh, you know, because you may get 5 orders and go, you know what, this is stupid. I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah, I just, I always said I would not. And like, I don't really, not many birds leave the farm live here. Just my business is not really locally driven because at the end of the day, this is my house, and not everyone, because I have met some great, absolutely fantastic local people. I've also had people come and knock on my door unannounced at 9 o'clock at night, looking for chickens. So I try to push everything through the website, and then once an order's made on the website, then we could come and schedule something, because I work full time outside of the
Right.
home. Christina Christina works here, but she also has to tend to Lane, going to school, coming back. I have a grandkid that she babysits. So a lot of things have to be scheduled, and there is a calendar in every room in this house. We are schedulers. Now, I don't follow the schedule. Chris, Christina keeps me on schedule. Um, it's just I don't turn away local business. The thing is, in my area, there's a lot of people that sell quail, and a lot of people sell them for a substantially lower price than I'm willing to sell, because I know what the value of my quail, and I know what I put in it, and the amount of time it took to get that product right there. Because I have tons of cages in my barn. The birds or the eggs are not for sale because I'm not satisfied with the status of the quail. So everything I put in a lot of time and effort into. So I'm not gonna sell an adult quail for $3 a bird.
Right.
But you could go down the road and you could buy adult quail for $3 and $4 a bird. So I don't I don't push local sales away. I'm not willing to sacrifice my worth and my quail's worth for a local sale, if that makes any sense. And
It,
anybody locally here, I mean, you could willing if you want to come buy stuff.
Absolutely. Somebody on here, I'm going to scroll up in the comments. Somebody just said that I have a great teaching voice. So Grafted Branch Homestead. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Um, I will I will tell you kind of a funny story about that. My daughter, my 11-year-old, as soon as she realized I would pay her to come and work, she was all in until she got about $200, and then she didn't want to work anymore because she was rich, right?
yeah.
So when we were at one of the poultry swaps, and my table was here, and this other guy's table was there, and I was selling my eggs. Basically, I sell my eggs local for 50 cents an egg, so $6 a dozen.
Mm,
So I had them set up on the table, and I was selling them $6 a dozen. And the guy next to me was selling them for $4 a dozen. And my daughter comes running. She says, Dad, we got to lower our prices. I said, no, we don't. She goes, he's selling his for $4 a dozen. I said, that's fine. I said, when he sells out, then they're going to come and buy from me. Or we're going to hope that our reputation is good enough and people are going to buy from us anyway. But if we have to take all of these eggs home, I'm going to pickle them and I'm going to sell them for 50 cents an egg. So I didn't have to lower my price. I still sold all of my eggs that day. But even if I hadn't, I can take them home, I can pickle them, and I still sell my eggs for 50 cents a piece.
yeah.
And that's kind of how a lot of people want to know how you come up with your prices. Well, how did you figure this out? How did you figure that out? I figured out how much money I need, how many birds I need, how many eggs I need, what my costs are. And then I figured out for my shipping eggs, if I have to do priority flat rate shipping, how much is that going to cost me?
Yeah.
That's how I came to my prices. And then I work on how can I lower my prices? How can I lower the price on my shipping foam? How can I get free boxes? How can I find a better way to ship? And so my pricing is 50 cents an egg plus priority flat rate shipping plus the cost of the foam plus the cost of the stickers plus the cost of the tape. I figured out how much each sticker cost
Yeah.
so that I knew. And then I started figuring out ways to bring those prices down. Could I order more stickers at once and get a lower rate? Could I order more foams at once and get a lower rate? Could I buy my boxes from Uline and get a better price? Could I get free boxes from the Postal Service and get a better price? But my pricing is consistent all across the board, no matter where you are. And I know at 50 cents an egg how many eggs I have to sell to make enough money to support myself and to support my family. And that was my forecasting. Then it's a matter of figuring out, how do I grow this market? And the one thing that you never want to do is you never want to start selling out of desperation. You never want people to, if you've got a hen and you want $10 for that hen, sell the hen for $10. Because you know what? If this person doesn't want my hen for $10, somebody else will. But don't lower your worth or lower your value because someone doesn't want to pay that. If they don't want to pay it, they don't want to pay it.
Yeah. And that's kind of what drove me to creating my website, because you would get tons of messages, and they would ask you how much you're selling this for, how much you're selling that for, and you tell them, and you're like, either they would, most of the time they would just completely ghost you, and you wasted an hour back and forth sending pictures, or they would tell you, oh, that's expensive. I mean, I could tell you I am not a millionaire, and quail farming will never make me one, because the profit margin is very low.
It is.
So I'm not doing this to get rich. I sell eggs to share my joy for the quail, because I could go right now and just start butchering, filling up freezers, and live a happy life and have about 100 quail, which won't cost me a bunch of money to raise, and I could still get my enjoyment of my birds. But I enjoy sharing it and my passion with everyone that purchases. I mean, it It's fun, stressful. Like, I so for me, every morning I use Pirate Ship. Every morning, open up Pirate Ship and I see where every package I have out is, because you can see on the map, you see where it's at. I look at every package. So like most of the time, I know when it's going to be late before the person receiving the eggs, because I'm just like that. Like I care, and I think the minute I stop, I'll probably stop doing it.
But good customer service goes a really, really long way. I have right now 5 orders that were placed uh, probably just before Christmas, right after Christmas, whatever. Um, Somebody won a contest and is getting free eggs from another quail farmer, but the quail farmer bought the eggs from me. And you know, with the cold weather that moved in, I mean, we got 9 inches of snow. Like that's a lot of snow for this area. I love it. I love the snow, but it got cold, so I had to put my one of my pens is my primary pen is outdoors, so I had to put tin up on the outside of my pen, and I'm still getting some eggs, and but not many. So I'm emailing my customers and I'm saying, hey, the weather's bad. We're expecting another cold snap here, like the 19th and 20th. I'm sorry for the delay. I'm going to get your eggs out as soon as possible. I could collect these eggs, and I'm doing it every hour. I could collect these eggs and let them sit for a day or two, and then I've got that order of 18 or that order of 36, and ship them out. But I'm not going to do that. I would rather refund this guy's money than send him eggs that aren't going to hatch. You know, maybe they would be mad at me. Maybe they would say, well, you told me such and such day, such and such time. Well, yeah, I did, and I'm sorry. I apologize. I'll make it up to you. Some way, shape or form, down the road. But I don't have control over the weather. I don't have control over, whether or not you've only got so much control over the mood of your quail, right? Um,
Yeah,
my daughters one day when I was at work, like I said, I worked 24-hour shift. They ended up getting home at like 9 o'clock. They didn't feed the quail. I was getting like 60 eggs a day from my outside pen. And I went out the next day, every single feeder is empty, and I had 3 eggs. That was it. And then the next day, 3 eggs, and then the next day, 5, and then the next day, 7. And, it took a while to build back up. So when things like that happen, the customer service, if you simply email somebody and say, hey, here's the situation, don't make excuses and don't wait for them to contact you. You reach out to them and explain, hey, this is what's going on. Most people I have found are very, very understanding.
yeah. Most people only had one bad customer experience, and it was recently. Um, and he never got eggs, but he ordered. By the time he ordered, I wasn't shipping anymore for the rest of the year. After he asked me if he ordered if I could ship it, I was like, yeah. And then he waited and then ordered. But then it was my fault, you know.
Well, and some people you're just not going to make happy. You know,
No.
True story um, from the paramedic world. We had a guy smoking crack, and this is when I lived in Florida, and he heard the alligators talking to him. So he went out in the lake to talk to the alligators. Um, and one of the alligators came up to talk to him and took his arm off.
Yeah.
Well, we took him to the hospital, and he was mad at us because we couldn't save his arm. Never mind the fact that we just climbed in the water and pulled you out of an alligator's mouth and saved your life. He was mad because we left his arm there. You know, So you're not going to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
Most people, if you rescued them from the clutches of an alligator, they're going to be perfectly happy with you. Wow, you're brave. Thank you so much. That's incredible. You risked your life. Not him. Anyway, he got arrested about a month after that because he was running butt naked down the middle of the road with one arm.
Yeah. Yep. So I have one question for you, Graham, before we jump to the comments.
Sure.
It's your first real winter with quail.
Yes.
Um, if you could go back 6 months ago, what would you tell yourself?
Get those birds inside. You know, when I first started this, now I've had poultry for many many years. I've never, the chickens always kind of did a good job keeping themselves warm and keeping themselves dry and this, that, and the other. Um, I would have brought the quail in because your quail aren't free range, right? So your chickens, they can eat the snow if they need to. They can find where it's dripping off the air conditioner unit, or they can find where it's dripping off the corner of the house. And quail or chicken do a pretty good job taking care of themselves. Um, my biggest thing right now that I've had to do, because we've had, nights that I think it's gotten down to like 15 degrees. Um, I don't have a building. I don't have an overhang. I don't have anything. So my birds, the only way I was able to insulate them is by putting tin across the back of the quail pen. And I've been shuttling portable waterers out to the cages. Um, if this was like a once in a blue moon thing, or a once every couple of years type of thing, then shuttling the portable waterers would be fine. Uh, but I think for anyone who lives in a cold environment, the best thing you can do, if you can't get them inside. I'm lucky because the house that I bought is the second house on this homestead. The original house was built in 1918 and it's back
Yeah.
here. So I'm fortunate because I can use that as my quail barn. If you don't have an outside barn or something like that that you can use, get one, build one, have one built, have one put up, because while my quail are doing just fine, they're great. I went out there, it was 18 degrees and they were not even huddled up. They weren't, you know, using each other's body heat. They did fine. Just that extra work of shuttling water in and out and in and out and in and out has been a hassle. So I did get a tank heater, which didn't work out for a number of reasons. But if I was doing this all over again, the original pen that I bought, it's a fantastic pen. It's a monster. The thing's like 7 foot tall and weighs like 600 pounds. I mean, it's very well made. Um, but I would definitely have built like an overhang first. Um, this summer I ran into some issues. It got too hot. I didn't have a fan going. I lost some birds because I didn't know. Um, the birds that are inside right now, their waters haven't froze. They're doing great. They're doing fine. The outside birds, they're doing great. They're doing fine. But I think if I would have kept them in, I think they would have kept laying. And I think that I would have saved a whole bunch of time shuttling waters. Um, so definitely get at least like a lean-to that is going to hold heat, right? Even if you can't do a lean-to, you could stack up bales of hay around your quail pen and insulate it that way. You can take one of the red heat lamps and hang it in there and keep it a little bit warmer so that maybe your waters aren't going to freeze. For me, the big thing is just the water's freezing. Um, I've had to go out there twice a day, every day for the last 3 days. And my outside pens, I've got 8 outside pens. So, it's 8 portable waterers in, 8 portable waterers out. Well, I don't, I can only carry 2 or 3 at a time without dumping them all over myself. So that's added a lot of time. The one thing that I did realize is the plastic bases that have the screw in ones.
Hmm.
I use mason jars on a lot of mine, and the glass mason jars don't freeze near as quick as the plastic ones do.
I had seen that on your video earlier.
So I think if you have to use portable waterers, take a quart mason jar, regular mouth, not a wide mouth, screw it into the base, put it in there. I'm assuming that the jar is more insulated, which is why
Yeah,
they're
it's
not freezing
thicker.
as bad. So today, when I realized that, I basically switched out all the plastic with mason jars.
Now, here's a pro tip for carrying waters in and out. You know how they make like the racks for like the sports drinks bottles? You see
Yeah.
them like the football games, like the little Powerade, Gatorade bottles.
Yeah.
Use one like that. You fill them up inside with them upside down, and you carry out. I think it actually holds 10.
I need to
Now
get one of those.
I don't have experience hauling waters around in there because my water doesn't freeze. We are extremely cold right now at 40 degrees. It's
Extremely cold.
extremely cold at 40 degrees. Everyone else in the country is getting snow. We got rain.
I was
So,
tickled to death that we got up to 34 degrees.
so I think I'm gonna do a side business venture and sell mud, not dirt, mud. If anyone's interested, I'll sell a shovel. I'll box it, whatever you need, and I'll ship it to you because
Official Louisiana mud.
yeah, it got cold enough where it killed most of the grass. Then it rained enough where it just made everything wet.
Yeah. Yeah, we're I saw a meme the other day and it said dear Mother Nate or dear ground, either freeze or dry. Sincerely, farmers everywhere. And
Absolutely.
we're actually the snow is defrosting right now, and I mean it's going to be a soupy, nasty, nasty mess, and then like a week from now it's going to freeze again. So then it's just going to be ice.
It's gonna be frozen mud.
Yes.
I was talking to someone last week lives in Wisconsin, and we were talking about cold weather. He was here earlier, Jacob, and I mean, like he sent me some pictures, and I can't even begin to understand those kind of temperatures. I'm probably 60 degrees difference from him. Most of the winter.
I lived in Florida the first 35 years of my life, which makes me 25 now. But the first
Yeah,
35 years of my life, I got tired of being hot all the time. I wanted to live somewhere with 4 real seasons, and we have 4 real seasons here. And I'm on the eastern side of the state, so it's not like the tumbleweed and the flatland that you think of when you think of Oklahoma, West Texas. We actually are kind of hilly out here and green and pretty. Um, but I really enjoy having the 4 real seasons. So I'll take the few days of shuttling waters in and out over 90 degrees on Christmas Day, any day of the week. Um, it Florida just got too hot, man, all the time. There's never a break. My parents are like, "Oh, it's cold today. It's in the 50s."
look, you see me bundled up. It's in the 40s here.
I didn't have a
Like,
jacket on. It was 34 today. I took
yeah,
my jacket off. I got hot.
oh, Jacob's still in the chat. He commented they had a heat wave today in Wisconsin. It was 32.
Oh, nice and warm.
Yeah, nice and warm. I
Jacob
I'm
wasn't wearing a
sure
jacket today either.
I'm sure he was out there in shorts.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and I don't know. I don't really know what the humidity's like in Wisconsin. But the last time I was there, I was in Milwaukee. So I don't know if that has any relationship to where Jacob is. But when it's cold, if it's not humid, it's not bad at all. I taught at a college in Nebraska for a year, and it would be 28 degrees outside, 22 degrees outside, and there was zero humidity. I mean, I took my kids to play in the snow one day, and we all took our jackets off because it got too hot. Um, the humidity makes all the difference in the world with the cold weather.
See, I can't understand that. And like I was talking to Kelly Connect at Feather Connections Homestead. She's in Provo, Utah, and she was like, "It's 32 degrees today, but it's a warm 32." I said, "Listen, 32 degrees Fahrenheit is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not like, oh, it's on the high side of 32. No, 32 is 32."
Tater Farms in central Georgia, and they're going to get a freezing fog. I'll tell you what, when it gets cold, and I used to live just north of Chattanooga, and I worked in North Georgia. And I'll tell you what, man, if a snow cloud comes under, they're running to get the milk and eggs, and it's a lot of fun watching Southern folks scramble with the snow
If it
coming.
gets down to freezing here, they shut schools down. Like it.
Oh yeah. And when I was in Nebraska, they had a 40-40-40 rule. If you had winds of 40 miles an hour, wind chill of negative 40 or 40 inches of snow, that's when they closed school down. So you'd be driving to work in the morning, and of course there's always like that one kid. It's like 12 degrees outside, and he's walking to school in shorts and a hoodie.
Yeah, it's like I wore shorts yesterday. When I left to go to work yesterday, it was 60 degrees. When I got home, it was like 45. But I wore shorts. I wore a jacket because, I mean, who wants to go outside in 45-degree weather without a jacket on? But I was wearing shorts.
Southern Biophiliac said they're bundled up too. My mom is like the epitome of a Florida girl. I'm like fifth generation Florida. My mom went to Auburndale High School, so we're actually where I grew up is maybe an hour from where Southern Biophiliac Farm is. But my mom's funny because she'll get, if it gets into the 60s, she's cold, and she is not happy.
That's how Christina is. She's always cold, but then in the summertime she's always hot. So, and I enjoy the cold weather, but we also like my cold to half of the people in this chat is like summertime to them. Because how far north in Oklahoma are you? I never looked on a map.
I'm right outside of Fort Smith, Arkansas. So if you look at the wide side of Oklahoma, I'm right in the middle. So I'm about 2 hours north of Texas and about 2 hours south of Kansas, and about 30 minutes outside of Arkansas.
So you pretty much up there.
Yeah, the probably if you drew a line straight across, I'm probably kind of in line with like Memphis. I don't know what parallel that puts me on, but
Yeah.
it's high enough to get cold periodically. But we did some globe trotting for a while. I from Florida, lived in Tennessee for 2 years, lived in Nebraska for a year, lived in Indiana for almost 3 years, and then moved to Oklahoma. And we've kind of settled here. Um, I've got a perfectly secure job working on the ambulance. The what brought us down here was the rodeo. If anyone wants to see my girls, good night, Tater. If anyone wants to see my girls rodeo, the Cowgirls, Jesus, and Rodeos are YouTube channel, and we catalog all that. But there's more rodeo here than there was in the entire southern half of Indiana combined. So let's see.
Yeah. So you're in the same parallel as S.O. Swanson. He's around the Memphis area. Like he's Mississippi, so he's my neighbor by state, but he lives on the northern portion of it.
Memphis is at the 35th parallel.
Yeah.
I haven't looked into it. I just know it gets cold and I like it. But I don't like frozen waters. So I like that idea that you had, because today I was toting them around in a 5 gallon bucket.
Yeah. As
Hopefully,
I use those waters in my brooders.
yep.
Um,
Next year I'm gonna have everything indoors, so I'm not gonna have to worry about it anyway.
yeah, my barn is not insulated at all, but it's with just the heat generation from the quail, it's probably 15 to 20 degrees warmer inside than outside.
I was able to so I have all of my brooders outside in the house out there. And I guess the people that owned this house before we did ran power off of our house into the house out back. And very fortunate for me, because I've been able to uh, keep my brooders out there, and I've got the heat lamps in there and a space heater, and the space heater and the red lamps and everything like that. I went to check my brooders today, and my brooder temp was 97 degrees.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
so my chicks are doing great. They're perfectly fine.
Yeah, I use some heat lamps on my bigger batches because I'll do like extremely large batches brooding, and I use heat lamps with Inkbird controllers for them. And then I use heat plates on like my smaller groups, like 16 under, different colors separated. I'll use heat plates, and in the thousands, I'll use heat lamps with Inkbird controllers. But like right now is my best time to brew during the year because I'm not worrying about overheating. In the summertime, I've had some batches that the heat lamp in the brooder never comes on.
Yeah, and
Um,
I actually have been thinking at ways to, because you're kind of coastal, right?
yeah, I'm on the coast.
So you guys, y'all at least get a little bit of the sea breeze there. But when we get hot, um, we get triple digits, and I
Yeah,
mean, there's it's 105 degrees during the day and a balmy 85 at night. And so I'm actually looking at getting a window unit to put inside, um, or a portable air conditioner to put inside the barn this year, because once it gets hot, I mean, it gets real hot. And I lost, when I said I had a heat incident this year, I lost half my flock. Um, and I learned from that, and that is absolutely not going to happen again this year.
yeah. The heat is brutal. I had some points in the summertime that I was getting a percentage of the eggs I should have been getting. Just with the heat was just so brutal. And right now, I'm not having any slacking off on laying, but I think it cooled down so fast this year that a bunch of my birds started molting, and it was that was another additional problem I had. I was just stacking problems on top of myself. Then we had a hurricane that hit us again this year, so you know, just stacking another problem on top, and it, the weather's nice here. We love it here because our growing season is, you know, 360 days a year.
Right.
So like we're growing fall and spring and winter crops, and we could grow pretty much anything except for like apple trees and stuff that require cold weather climates. So we truly enjoy it, except for I would say from like July, August, and September is probably the worst time to live in South Louisiana.
Absolutely. And it's the same here. July, August, September. Eh, Here really it's July and August, when we get up into triple digits. September we actually start to cool down a little bit. Um, but man, I mean, it it gets so miserably hot here that you really don't want to go outside. Fortunately, That's only about 2 or 3 weeks out of the year. Um, but I've already started planning for that. I already know that I'm going to have to get some air conditioning set up in there, and not a lot. I need one portable air conditioning unit for the main room, and that'll keep it cool enough to keep the birds laying. But
Yeah. And it's not so much air conditioning they need, because if you're gonna do air conditioning, you're definitely gonna need some good filtration. They ventilation. They'll handle the 100 degrees, but they won't handle 100 degrees of stagnant air.
right,
Airflow. Airflow is more important, because I mean I've had them where it was 120 plus in the quailborn, but they had air moving
yep.
and they were fine.
And that's my barn right now. It has no air movement whatsoever, um, so they're definitely going to need it. And these birds, they're just dusty. They're just plain old dusty.
Yeah.
If you want to see how dusty a bird is, set just a 5-gallon bucket, set it in the middle of the floor, then move your birds into that room, keep them in there for 2 weeks, move the bucket. It's unreal how dusty these things are.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand it, but they are very dusty. We have a leaf blower we use in our barn to blow up the floor, and any spider webs they develop in the rafters and stuff. And if you gotta have the front door and the back door open when you crank up that leaf blower, because it it's terrible.
I imagine, and one of the little
Yeah.
masks on, and
I I I never wear a mask, and Christina always makes me wear one. So um, I'll be wearing one tomorrow. Got to do poop trays and clean the floor, blow everything down, and pack up a few egg orders, and then that'll be done for the evening.
I'm not looking forward to the poop trays. Um, those have been neglected since the weather got cold, and the pen that I put the tin on the back of, the poop tray is accessed from the back of that pen. So
Hmm.
it's going to be a mess, but that's got to be done tomorrow because I got to work Monday.
Do it while you're frozen.
Well, unfortunately, by the time I get home from church tomorrow, they will not be frozen anymore.
They'll be sloppy and mushy.
Yeah. But
So
that backs up to my garden, so it right into the garden. It's done.
yeah, so in the past has been mainly Christina. She does say 95% of the quail work, other than like loading eggs or sorting birds. I do all of that stuff, but she did everything else. So the past few weeks, I've been making an effort to assist her doing it. And I can tell you one thing: we are super efficient as a team cleaning poop trays. Like, she grabs the trays and she turns around to the wheelbarrow to them, and I scrape them out, and then of course she corrects me that I left some, and then you know that's marriage. And
Yeah.
then like we are super efficient. Like last weekend we were done. I was like, man, that's it. We're done.
Dishes done and everything.
So I'm looking forward to doing it tomorrow.
Well,
As
I
weird as
am
that.
trying. My job has been to make this enjoyable for the kids because the kids are the ones helping me right now. And so I've been doing all of the grunt work and them do the more fun stuff. Like they get to collect eggs, whereas I get to do poop trays. You know,
You have recommendations for tabletop.
So Christina just told me that we have a question, which I apologize to anyone in the chat that me and Graham kind of ignored most of the comments. We're here chatting and just kind of usually I'll read out comments, and now I think we're so far behind Graham that I don't think we have enough hours left in the day to catch up on the comments.
well, I have tried to keep an eye on them,
Yeah.
but I'll be honest, I do not multitask really well. Um, if I start talking and then I start reading, I will forget what I'm talking about, or I'll start saying what I'm reading out loud. But I've tried to keep track when someone had a specific question. Um, Tater Farm said that when it's hot outside, they put frozen bottles in the cages. I am actually going to do that this year. Um, I did not have a deep freezer last year. Um, I do have a deep freezer this year, so I will keep water bottles in the freezer this year, and I will be putting those in the quail pens. I saw that recommended a lot over the summer. I just didn't have any way to do it, and again, I lost half my flock because of the heat. So I
Yeah.
learned something. Um, I After that, I hung a fan up, and I've got a fan connected to my quail pen now, a box fan, and I didn't lose any more birds after I started circulating that air. Like you mentioned, the big deal is the circulation.
Yeah.
I didn't lose
Circulation
any more
key.
birds after I hung that fan up. But this whole thing is a process, and I'm really excited about this upcoming year, but I'm under no misconception that it's going to be easy.
Yeah. It won't be easy, but I mean, nothing really ever is.
It but it'll be worth it. Brian asked
Yeah.
about type of feed that I give my birds. So we have a feed mill here in Oklahoma that does local distribution only. But I use a 30% game bird for my chicks and my grow outs. Um, I use that up until week 9. At week 9, I start to transition over to a 20% layer. Um, I know some people stop the, I know some people transition between weeks 8 and 9 or weeks 7 and 8 over to a layer because they're more concerned about boosting that production. I want the size too. I've actually found by way of running out of my layer feed that my birds still do lay on the 30% game bird. Um, I prefer using the 20% layer because it's less expensive, but I want the additional size on my birds too by sticking with that 30% up to the 10 weeks when the birds are basically done growing.
Yeah. And I'll answer a couple questions real quick. So on the feed, one of the reasons why mainly it's recommended to once they start laying to drop them off of the 30%, like the high protein, is a lot of the nutritional stuff that's in there, it'll burn through their insides. Um, and it's not healthy for them. So their internal organs cannot handle like that much protein, which protein comes straight through. Like anything extra, they can absorb what they can absorb, and everything extra is going in your poop trays and you shoveling it out. Like you wasting your money. But a lot of the chemicals and the ingredients that's in there will actually then you start having like liver failure in quail early on. You start having some heart issues. They'll build up fat around their heart and stuff like that. And I mean, and that's stuff that I've learned over the years of talking to poultry nutritionists. So that's one of the main reasons why so when they're young, you want their protein, you want feather development fast, you want meat, you want them to grow fast. So you are absolutely correct. What I do is I feed it as a 26% game bird crumble. They eat that from the day they hatch till the day they go ice skating. Just it's my middle ground. That way I don't have a you know, separate feed, and it's a nightmare because I already
Yeah.
have a bunch of different animals that eat all kinds of different feed, and it's just it's a mess. So
Yeah, I feed the game bird probably a week longer than a lot of people do. Uh, like I said, a lot of people transition between weeks 7 and 8, and I
yeah,
transition at like weeks 9 and 10.
yeah,
Uh, you know, I I've had quail lay as early as like 5 weeks. They're laying, but I'm not transitioning them off the high protein at that point in time. Um, for me, you know, one of the great things about having this local feed mill is my feed cost is a lot lower. Like for a 30% game bird, I pay $18.95 for a 50-pound bag. For a 20% layer pellet, I'm paying $15.95 for a 20% bag. And you know, I know a lot of people are using, you know, a brand name food, or they're getting a 40-pound bag or whatever. Um, the layer feed, like for me to get the 20% layer at a, you know, a farm store, it would cost me $21.95 a bag, and it would be a 40-pound bag. So having the local feed mill has saved me a lot of money, and that lets me put a little extra, you know, time on the high protein, transition them into the layer, and then, you know, they're fully mature at 8 weeks, but they're full grown at 10 weeks. There's not a right way to do it.
No,
Yeah.
and what you're doing is technically not wrong. They are sexually mature at 8 weeks. This is where a lot of people get messed up. They are sexually mature at 8 weeks old. They technically, I mean, I'm gonna say that I think the jumbo standard is outdated, but the jumbo standard is 10 ounces by 10 weeks. It's not 10 ounces by 8 weeks. It's not 10 ounces by 6 weeks. It is 10 ounces by 10 weeks.
And that's what I shoot for.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of people, you know, one of the big quail farms, if they're not 10 ounces at 8 weeks, they're culling their birds. That's fine. You know, that's, you know, again, there's no wrong way to do it. And if I was doing the kind of volume they are, I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
But
I
right
mean,
now, you know, I don't want to say this bird's not jumbo, because at 8 weeks, you know, you're sexually mature as a person at like 12 or 13 years of age, right? That's kind of like at the 8 week mark, you know, it's the equivalent of like a 12 or 13-year-old. Yes, they're sexually mature, but no, they're not full grown. Um, so it's, you know, if my feed cost were higher and I could save money by backing off the high protein sooner, that's probably what I would do.
yeah, if you were paying $30 a bag for the high protein, you'd
Right,
want to cut it out at 7 to 8 weeks.
right. And, you know, but I know there's another guy in Oklahoma. He just feeds a 15%, you know, layer to his laying stock. Um, you know, I like a 20%. It does well for me. The other thing is the 20% that I buy is not powdery. It's a really good crumble, so I like that a lot. Um, there
Yeah.
was a question, Sherman, I
Yeah,
think.
Sherman. So Sherman's asking. He asked about buying live quail from you. He's semi-local, and he also asked about what's our recommendations on the best tabletop incubator.
So I do sell local. Um, you can find me on Facebook. It's Judd's Quail. You can shoot me a message. Right now, I'm in the process of kind of building my flock, so I don't have. I've got some colors that I would sell right now, because I don't know if they're male or female. So I would let those go. But my jumbo browns, my jumbo Egyptians, I'm holding on to all of those right now. Um, but yes, I do sell local, and we do have a poultry swap that'll be starting back. It's the Bakoshi Poultry Exchange here in Oklahoma. Um, tabletop incubators. I have experience with one, and that's the Little Giant. Um, my experience with Little Giant is, so Little Giant says their incubators are made in America. That is true. The components are not. So the incubator is a good quality, and your first hatch on a Little Giant is going to go off without a hitch. After that, you're going to have work to do. The humidity gets high in the Little Giants. The humidity gets inside the thermostat. The thermostat's connect, or the sensor. The sensor's connected to the thermostat, and that humidity, when it gets inside that sensor, it's all kinds of crazy. So if you're going to get a Little Giant, you're going to want a secondary hygrometer. The quail rails, the egg turner, and the Little Giant works great. The Little Giant's easy to use, easy to assemble, easy to clean type of incubator. but the temperature can be a little bit difficult to control once
Yeah.
once the sensor gets that humidity in it.
And I'm
Customer
gonna
service
agree with
wise,
you.
customer service wise, Little Giant is fantastic.
Yeah.
When I called and complained, they're like, okay, we'll send you new components. So I like them, but there's probably better ones out there.
So for me, I'm gonna tell you your best bang for your buck is a Little Giant styrofoam incubator. Invest in a secondary thermometer hydrometer. Govee is good and cheap, but I think this a little inaccurate overall. ThermPro is probably better. Both of them are digital thermometer hydrometers you put in there. For years, probably 15 years, that's all we incubated in. Little Giant styrofoam incubators. We've incubated everything from quail to emu eggs in Little Giant incubators. And I swore I would never spend $1,000 on an incubator. Not happening. I'm not spending that money. And I looked around and we had about, it was over 10 Little Giant incubators going at one time.
You spent $1,000 on incubators, didn't you?
So bought a GQF, which GQF cabinet incubators are great. Hatching time cabinet incubators are also great. I'm not going to tell you either one is better. Some people don't like the hatching time because of the small viewing windows, but what are you looking at? You know, what are you trying to see? Like for me, a hatching time incubator wouldn't really serve me any, you know, positive purpose because I don't add any humidity during incubation. Now, the hatching time hatchers with the humidity pump would serve me better because I do add humidity in when I lock down, but not during incubation. So for me personally, I can't justify the expense on a hatching time incubator for that reason only. Because I could get a GQF, I could pick one up for $300 used, and I could set 1,080 eggs in it. So it's kind of like value, but Little Giant is not bad. Um, I'm
The
not a
mommy
fan of
says
Nurture Right
she has
360.
the mommy says she has a nurture right, 4 nurture rights.
I'm not a fan.
And I've heard mixed reviews on nurture rights. I've had some people say they're great, some people say they're not. Same thing with Little Giant in the comments. Someone said, they're great. Someone said they're not. There's another one. I think it's called a Hovabator.
Yeah,
I've heard mixed reviews on that one. I bought one made in China type of thing. I liked it because it had a clear glass top. I did one hatch in there. I got 7 out of 80 eggs and sent it back. It wasn't even a brand name.
yeah,
It wasn't even in Fahrenheit for that matter. So, if you're going to grow the business, you're going to have to scale up. And I ended up going with a Hatching Time CT 120. And the defining factor for me, because the GQF Sportsman was one that I looked at, and the Hatching Time CT 120, they hold about the same amount of eggs and all of that. The GQF was more expensive after you bought the quail rails.
yeah,
So I bought the Hatching Time. The first hatch I did with my Hatching Time, perfect, went off without a hitch, steady temperature, steady humidity, no issues. This last hatch still had a fantastic hatch, can't complain about a thing, but to get the temperature at 99.5, I had to set the thermostat at like 98.3. But again, once I had it set, it maintained at like 99.5. I had my secondary hygrometer, those balanced out. So it was still a good hatch. And there, I had a little bit of an issue with the little humidifier thing that goes
yeah.
onto it. Called Hatching Times customer service and said, hey, this is my issue. no questions asked. They just sent me another one. So I'm going to replace that, try that with my next hatch and see what happens. If it just so happens I've got to set it at 98.3 to get 99.5, then fine. That's what I'm going to do. But, I've only had 2 hatches with it so far. Both of those have been great. The next hatch is going to be your eggs.
Yeah, I hope you get 100%.
Man, I'd be ticked. Actually, I wouldn't be happy because I don't think I could house all of them, but I would figure it out.
Well, you have somebody locally that wants to buy quail, so I mean,
Sherman, you can have the extras.
you solving problems before you have them.
Yeah. Well, that's been kind of, I said I fly by the seat of my pants. I hatched my first batch of eggs, and I think I got 140 chicks out of that on, let's say, a Thursday. Saturday, I picked up the brooders and moved the chicks out. So I was cutting it close, but I made it happen.
Yeah. So another tabletop one I actually tried for my hatching rental kit is it's a Kebonics. It's similar. It's the dome incubators, and typically I won't recommend a dome type incubator for anyone. And here I am. I bought different incubators because I wanted to try different incubators and see which one I was gonna go with for my hatching rental kits, for hatching at home. And I had a decent enough hatch rate, and I used this one. Christina wouldn't get it for me because she is so excellent. This guy right here, I don't know what model it is. Look, a picture of it. I think I paid $65 for it. You could put a dozen quail eggs in it, and I had 80+% hatch rate. So for a smaller scale, it's not bad for what you're paying for. I mean, and I'm all about value for dollar.
I ultimately I would like to buy several of these and try them out and do reviews online. The big thing that I have found is the first hatch seems to be fantastic. It's the subsequent hatches.
Yeah.
So I would like to start, buying some of these and, doing reviews on them. But that's the future plans, something, I'm going to do once I have more time. Right now, infrastructure is the big thing. Christopher Hendershot said he had the same issue, but he's still getting good hatches. So,
yeah, I had a little giant that on the controller was set at like 103.6 to get 99.5. And you look down at the controller, it's with 120 eggs in there. The controller's telling you 103.6. You get a little nervous.
That it makes my eye twitch and kicks my OCD into overdrive. I can't handle that.
But Christina did so much incubation with them because Christina does the incubation. She did so much incubation that she knew which incubator she had to set at different temperatures, because you got 5 of these things sitting side by side, and every single one of them set at different temperatures. Some's lower than 99.5, some's higher than 99.5, but they all set at 99.5 degrees.
See, and you mentioned the shipping earlier about how you're on top of that shipping. You check Pirate Ship every single day. I'm like that with my incubators, man. 3-4 times a day, I'm eyeballing it. If I'm at work, I'm calling the house, telling my kids, "Hey, go tell me what this says. Go tell me what the temperature's on this." I stay on top of that because I don't think there's anything more disappointing than looking in your incubator on day 17 and seeing nothing. I've had that happen. It made me sad, and I don't want to be sad. So I stay on top of that. But my wife gets frustrated. She's like, "You've called 3 times today." Yes, I know. But just tell me the temperature.
Yeah, I'm worried about my babies here.
That's it. That's it. You have to understand this is important, honey.
Yeah, this is very important.
So now that I have the hatching time, I'm definitely happy with that. The good thing for me is I can put like some of my project eggs. Like right now, I've got some ducks incubating. I've got 2 incubators sitting over here on the counter. I've got some ducks incubating and some turkey. Uh, I don't necessarily want. I absolutely don't want turkeys, and I don't necessarily want this particular breed of duck. I do like my ducks, but I'm only hatching those out so I have something to sell at the first swap this year. You know,
Yeah, turkeys sell really well at swaps. Um,
they do.
yeah, we raised turkeys for years, and I mean we would sell them. So like I would always make sure I hatched out new turkeys every year for me. That way they were laying late November, early December. That way those first swaps I had turkeys ready to go before everyone else, and
I
I
don't.
mean they sold really well.
I don't know how to pronounce this. Weininger,
Wanager, poultry
Weininger.
farm. Yep.
Yeah, they watch their incubator too. Jacob has a Brinzia. That's another one. Again, mixed
Yeah.
reviews. I think we kind of touched on it earlier tonight. They're blue slate turkeys. I am not getting into Muscovies. I like the Peking ducks. Um, I think the white ones are pretty. Um, I don't. I don't know a whole lot about ducks, but I know that the Pekin ducks lay good and taste good. So that's, and really, again, I just want to focus on the quail. I like my ducks because I don't have to do anything with them, you know. But
Yeah.
we started to touch on this earlier, in terms of the the incubator that you use, the setup that you have, the quail pen that you use, the feed that you use. A lot of this is what works for you, and I think one of my problems for sure is I tend to overthink. Uh, but there's there's really not a whole lot of overthinking that you can do. It's good to plan, but really sometimes you've just got to run with it, you know. And you try this, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, do something different. If you try one
Yeah.
incubator and you like it, stick with it. It doesn't matter what I think about your incubator. If you're having successful hatches, use it. I
I've
don't. It
seen
doesn't
people
matter.
with styrofoam incubators with duct tape holding these things together, and they're still having good hatch rates.
Absolutely.
I mean,
It just doesn't matter. The feed you use. I see a lot of conversation about feed. One of the best videos I ever saw said, for your laying hens, you want 15 to 20%. For your chicks, you want 25 to 30%, 25 to 32%, whatever. Really, all that matters is your protein and calcium on your laying hens, and then the protein on your chicks. Don't overthink it. People. Well, do you buy Kalmbach? Do you buy Neutrina? Do you buy Purina? It does not matter. Feed your birds, and if your birds are doing well, great. And the other thing is a lot of this is regional. Tractor Supply carries what Tractor Supply has, so we can all
but
get
but
Tractor
that's
Supply.
that's not across every store because there's like Tractor Supply feed that you see online that I
Right,
cannot get in my area.
right. But in terms of like the Purina, they all
Yeah.
carry Purina, they all carry Neutrino, whatever the case is. But everybody's feed is going to be different. So, with me, my feed store sells nothing but local feed. I couldn't buy Purina from them if I wanted to. I don't want to, but you're going to have to use what you have access to, and you're going to have to make the best out of what you've got. And that goes for your infrastructure, that goes for your egg cartons, that goes for your shipping phones, that goes for all of that. So I think it's good to ask questions, And I think it's good to get information. I think it's bad to overthink, because there is what is called analysis paralysis. Uh, if you want to get this perfect before you start, you will never start. It will never be perfect.
Oh, I am so far from perfect. It it's not even funny. So we got Orlando says hello to everyone. I do have a question. I have a few quails. I've seen a white dot and would like to know why they have a dot in their eye. um, if it's all of them, chances are, I'm not sure what kind of white dot you're talking about. Uh, Typically, anything with the eyes would be like a vitamin A deficiency, whether it be lack of absorption or it could be a feed issue. It could, could be isolated incident with, dust or something like that. If it's like inside the eye ball itself, I would say vitamin A or some kind of infection. I would have to see it to see what it looks like to give you a better answer. Because they could have eye parasites, surprisingly, especially like an aviary type setting. Um, they could have stuff like that. Or
I
it could
would,
just be trauma.
if you can get a picture of it, send it to Aaron. Don't send it to me. Um, this is another one of those areas. I mentioned earlier. Meat and eggs. That's my thing. Meat and eggs.
Yeah.
The genetics is not me. The whole veterinary thing is also not me. I do not nurse quail back to health. If I see something that's wrong, I call the bird. So I am not. If you're wanting to figure out, hey, what is this, and can I nurse them back to health and all that, I'm not your guy. If you've only got a few and you think this is kind of like a one-off and it's something you can fix real quick, snap a picture, send it to Aaron if you can. Snap it to anyone else that you know or trust. But for me, I am focused on production, so I don't even worry about issues. I mean, if a bird has big eyelids, I cull it.
Yeah, and I was the same way, Graham. So like majority I've been raising quail for over 15 years. So the majority of my time has been absolute production. I just wanted the biggest birds. I didn't care the colors did not matter to me. Because once you cook them, it doesn't matter.
They all taste the same.
Yeah, egg and meat production was my primary goal, and over the last few years, since I've kind of reached out and kind of started helping more people, so I felt the need to educate myself in those situations to find out because I look if a bird had a messed up foot, if it was limping, the bird was gone. It was in the freezer. It didn't matter. I'm put you in the freezer. Head injury, freezer. Broken wing, freezer. Anything wrong with you, I'm not gonna nurse anything back to health. You either are gonna thrive on your own or you won't survive. And I had that mentality, and then since I started doing um, public business, now I find myself having to answer questions to people that are buying quail from me that they're pets. So, I mean, you want to be compassionate because, just because I raise quail a certain way doesn't mean I expect everyone else to raise quail the same way. If that is your pet and you have them in a bird cage on your bedside, that is your choice. That is your quail. You could do what you want. So I did what I could to try to educate myself to be an asset to those people because I'm sure everyone in here has seen it. Someone just get absolutely shredded in a Facebook group because they're raising quail for pets. And it's not right because that they're raising quail too. It doesn't matter the purpose. It matters that they are doing it. And then look out. That's a hill that I'll die on.
I have to I have to be careful what I'm going to focus my time on. Um, I don't know if you know this or not. I'm actually one course away from my doctorate, and so it's a research based doctorate. So I can dive off into the weeds really really quickly and just immerse myself in the research, and I do enjoy that sort of stuff. Um, but the problem is it'll sidetrack me from what my focus is. One of my deals is when I have a sick bird, occasionally you have a bird you just like, right? You may have 3,000 birds, but I like this one. Well, if something happens to the bird that I like, I'll take it and I put it in a pen by itself and I see how it does. If it heals and it's fine, then I put it back in the flock. Um, if it doesn't heal and it dies, then it dies, you know. But occasionally I'll have that one bird that, well, I'm not going to call you. I'm just going to see what happens. I had a bird that got attacked, and I'm telling you, its entire front of its neck got ripped off. I could see the esophagus, I could see the trachea, and I thought, oh, that bird's dead. 3 days later, the skin and feathers and everything had grown completely back.
Yeah.
So I say I call everything. I don't necessarily call everything. But generally speaking, if there's a health issue, I did see someone mention in the comments that an older bird can get cataracts.
Yeah, and it's from a vitamin A deficiency.
That would make perfect sense. One way to combat that, very simply, is just to get a good, well-balanced feed. And again, the feed you have access to is going to be different from what Aaron can get or from what I can get. But a good, well-balanced feed may fix that.
Yeah.
And really with these birds, consistency is what they thrive on. I know that I can get the same feed every single time, every single trip, without fail. So you find a feed that you're able to get and you're able to get consistently. These quail are the most finicky things. Try not to move them if you can avoid it. Keep their water full, keep their feeder full, keep their environment the same, and just watch and see if it's getting worse. Especially if it looks infectious, right? Anything that's developing pus, if they have bubbles in their eyes, it could be the sign of a respiratory type of infection. If they're mouth breathing a lot, and I'm not talking about in the heat when they're breathing off the heat, but if they're mouth breathing or gasping for air, something like that, you've got a sick bird, and you need to get that one out of your flock. But if it's just the white spot, fix the feed, watch it for a while. If it's not getting better, and here's the other thing. If you want to keep that bird, right? I know a lot of people that will keep their crossbeak birds. And I had my very first crossbeak. It's actually kind of cool looking. I'm not going to keep the crossbeak. It's going to get cold. I'm going to throw it in with the roosters, and that's going to be the end of her. But if you want to keep the bird, that's fine. Just keep it out of your breeding program.
Yeah.
Don't hatch eggs that bird lays. Don't sell eggs for hatching. You can eat them all day long. Sell them as eating eggs. But if you're not sure about it, keep it to the side. Don't sell the eggs. Don't hatch the eggs.
Yeah, and like for what I do, selling hatching eggs and selling, live birds, anything that enters my breeding program is strong. I'm breeding for, a good quality body size on a bird. I'm breeding for temperament on a bird. I want a good temperament. I don't want no evil, nasty birds running around my cages, causing havoc. I'm breeding for, disease resistance and, anything like that. So selectively over the years, after you select and select and select, you're going to have a good, true, hardy stock, as opposed to like if you introduce one crossbeak in there, And I could do the math like on one crossbeak and like a two breeder situation cage. And if you are gonna hatch and replace, like let's say every 6 months, within a year and a half, you have bred that completely into genetics, and you have 8 out of your 10 hens that are crossbeak.
Right.
Um, you know, maybe not exactly, but off the top of my head, you are introducing that at a high rate in your breeding program, and it's just not good long term because you're breeding weak things into it.
And that's the kind of thing that if somebody buys eggs from you and they get a bunch of splay leg, or they get a bunch of crossbeak, or whatever type of, you name the genetic defect, um, you're probably not going to get another sale.
No.
So for me, right now what I sell is called a party box, right? And I call it a party box because there's a party inside of every box, because you don't know what you're going to get. Quite frankly, I don't know what you're going to get either. That's one of the reasons I'm working on my infrastructure. I don't have a way to sort my birds. But the one thing that I do know is that every single bird that I have laying and every single rooster that I have breeding is a healthy bird. And so if you buy eggs from me, you're going to get a healthy bird. It may be jumbo, it may be standard, it may be white, it may be black, and it may be any color in between, or any combination of colors in between. And that's my goal, is to produce a healthy bird for anybody who hatches out of my flock. So
Yeah, absolutely.
the defects, things like that, sometimes those become your favorite birds. They just do, even for somebody like me that goes outside and processes, 20, 30, 40 birds at a time. Sometimes you just like one. That's cool. Keep it separate. Don't
Yeah.
introduce it into your flock.
Well, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up.
How many people are still here, man?
We have 24.
Good night. Y'all are some committed folks. God bless you all.
I didn't think I had 24 people that like me, Graham. They here for you.
No, come on.
I got 3 people that like me, and you one of them. So
and sometimes Christina.
no. She doesn't even like me when I'm sleeping.
You getting punched in the middle of the night? I know I do.
Yeah.
Well, I don't get punched anymore. I got CPAP now, so
I'm not far from it myself. Man, I still have birds to tend to, and I'm trying to hold off on my American pansies, pull them out the brooder for a couple more days. But they're like 4 weeks old. Yeah, 4 weeks old today.
I'm impressed that 24 people stuck around this long. This has been a long podcast. I really enjoyed it.
We had 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah, and there's people that stuck this out, and even still, like some of the people that left early were here for an hour and a half, hour and 45.
Yeah.
But the missus came through and gave me the stink eye about a half hour ago, and I thought, well, it's not my podcast. I can't wrap it up.
Yeah.
So,
I appreciate everybody that stopped here tonight, and everybody that's still here. Everybody's gonna watch it later. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. And, if you like the video, if you didn't like the video, still hit the thumbs up. I don't want your negativity.
That's right. We ain't got time for that.
Check out Graham at juddsquail.com. He got hatching eggs. He's a friend of mine. I'm very proud of him on everything he's doing over there in Oklahoma. Thanks for all the support, and we'll be having videos come out this week sometime. I'm looking at Christina. She's completely ignoring me. She has checked out of the conversation. We'll have a couple of videos that.
My Facebook is Judd's Quail. My YouTube is Cowgirls, Jesus, and Rodeo. I post videos approximately whenever the mood strikes. I'm not consistent. We covered that earlier. But I want to thank everybody that came tonight. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, Aaron, to share my story.
Yeah.
You know, if y'all didn't catch the beginning of the podcast and catch my story, go back and watch it. You'll understand a little bit more about why I'm here and how Aaron and I became friends. But really, really good podcast, Aaron, and I appreciate you for inviting me on.
Yes, sir. And I'll be in touch with you on tomorrow evening, actually.
All righty.
Yes,
Y'all
sir.
take care.
Everyone have a great night.
God bless you guys.
Yes, sir.